Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fialka. Today is September 2022. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Today, it is a pleasure and an honor to be with Chris Bartnicki. Now, Chris, pronounce both your first and your last name in the proper way.
In Polish, you mean?
Please.
Okay, so my first name is Krzysztof, but you can call me Chris, of course. And my proper name is Bartnicki, which you said exactly right. So,
Where in the heck are you calling in from?
Where I'm called from?
Yeah, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the south of Poland, industrial zone. We've got a lot of coal mine here. Not a lot of culture, but I survive. And the nearest biggest city is called Katowice, if it means anything to you. I suppose it doesn't. And I suppose I should say good evening because it's already 8 in the evening here. So everything is dark.
Beautiful. First question? What's the best thing for a human being?
I think I would connect it to the question that I often ask myself about the purpose of a human being. And the purpose of a human being is to produce texts. What is the purpose of the text? That I cannot say.
Just to produce text. That's good. What's your favorite form of information? How it comes into you?
But you mean what kind of medium or?
Exactly. And keep in mind, you put all the questions into the context you want. But that's pretty much what I'm asking. Yeah.
Okay. So I've got this portable hierarchy. Let's say literature, and then graphic arts, and then music. And I, being a writer, I should say probably should say literature is the best. However, I wrote this book, which is not translatable into. I don't think it's translatable into English. Several books that are not translatable into English. So whenever someone paints something, that makes a common language, but they need to pay for the paints, for the canvas and stuff. So I think the upper in the hierarchy of texts is the musical text, because basically what we need to produce sounds is our vocal cords. It's a pretty cheap one. So I'd say
we're going to get into that deeply.
Yep.
That is a great statement you just said. It highly enlightened me. I like literature, graphic arts, and music. But to literature, a diversion question for a second. Did you become a reader because your parents told you to read? They did it as an example, or on your own?
No, I did it because I liked to learn reading, but I didn't learn reading on books. I learned on comic strips. So there were, pictures and text, and it was always interesting. What the heck are they saying there? And that's how I learned reading.
But your parents were buying the newspapers, and you saw the comics in the newspapers?
No, there were separate comics books, separate.
You went out and bought comic books.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Beats me. I suppose.
Wait, that's one of the best questions, the best answers I've had in 40 years. Beats me. That's good.
No, good. The older I get, the fewer information I try to produce. I fail miserably, but I think it wouldn't be bad if we refrain from producing a lot of text.
Yeah.
So there's a thought, coming across my mind occasionally, that let's make fewer texts than we do.
Ooh, great.
So I don't believe in, big data systems that are going to make us happy. No, I think it's going to turn into chaos and white or black noise.
Yeah. You mean you like Anthony Burgess' shorter version of Finnegan's Wake, or the long version?
The shorter the better. But But no, but if you ask me if I like the say the aesthetics of Joyce with this those pompous verbosity, or the almost Buddhist like aesthetics of Beckett, who is going to say little and go back to very subtle poetry of few lines. I must say that I have thought it through, I think, and I still do think Joyce's way is better than Beckettian.
I know that's fucking Zizek. He thinks Beckett's better than Joyce. I've had it out with him. But listen, what was the word after pompous? Pompous what?
Pompous verbosity.
Oh, verbosity. Okay, now what do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate in humans or more invented?
To collect information?
Yeah.
Uh, I'm trying to do a short introspection into myself. I think we could do without collecting information. So I would say it's something we learn, not something that is.
It's good. Do thoughts create emotions?
I don't think they're on the same level. I would say some thoughts can be emotions, and some emotions are thoughts. So I don't think they are mutually exclusive, but also I don't think they are mutually interdependent. So there is this guy here in Poland who says we are not going to read any more literature, and we're going to transform ourselves into the vessels of exchange of emotions, and he is not saying anything about thoughts. So I think they are not, in the same ballpark, or there are different categories. It's like apples and oranges. There's something similar. They're both fruit, but they are not the same. So
I got you. But what's the guy's name again?
His name is Jacek Dukaj. I didn't mention his name, and he's a philosopher slash former science fiction writer, a big name in Poland. So,
but he's not. Is he sort of new agey, or he's just sci-fi?
No. Do you know this Polish writer Stanisław Lem? He was a big name.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So Jacek Dukaj is like the next Lem.
The next Lem. Okay, that's good. Thank you. So fill in the blank, Chris. I don't know what I think until I
translate it from my thought into my that's chemically from my brain into my thought, and then from my thought, say, into writing, or any kind of system that carries information, or words, or whatever, signs.
Yeah, that's McLuhan says, I don't know what I think until I say it. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. So yours is sort of a combination of variation on that. I don't know what I think until it goes from your brain into your thought, into writing or something else.
Yep.
Can humans think without language?
Can humans think without language? I think therefore I am. Those humans that were that we can call humans already, but they didn't invent language as such yet, because there were those prehistoric times when humans did not invent language as we know it yet. So I would say they were humans, and they could somehow live without a language.
And you're saying they were thinking?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I would say they were thinking. They even if instinctively, let's kill a mammoth, they had to think something.
I'm glad you're certain there. Okay. Chomsky says language is not just words. It's culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work, when language breaks down?
What do I do? Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, what do you do when language doesn't work? What do you do?
Oh, but I've never experienced myself, failing to the point that my language doesn't work. There is, if I can be boastful about myself, I'd say my language has never failed me. So I've never
Okay,
find
that's good. That's good. But
I've
now,
never found myself in a spot when I would say, "Oh, now I'm lost for words" or something like that. No,
yeah,
I've got many flaws. I'm I don't know many things, but language, I subdue my language.
I what my language?
Subdue. I'm subdue. I'm a master of my language.
You're a
So
master of language. Okay, but you've
of my language, because
yeah,
your language can be quite different from mine.
yeah, but your observations of other humans,
Yeah.
when you see language break down, what would you suggest to them to do?
Uh what's this? Well, I'm trying to recall the name of this guy, Paul Grice. I think he got these maxims of conversations, and I think they're a great starting point to easen up and to help people communicate if they have any communications problems. So if I hear a judgment that two people cannot communicate, I'd say 99 times out of 100 they probably violated some kind of maxim that Grice put down, and there are several maxims by. I think his first name was Paul. I'm certain that his surname is Grice, Grice, and that's got something to do with violating one of his principles.
Okay, that's good. Your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
I'd like to think, that we are more thinking, but since I know that there is a part of us that can feel without thinking, it is possible. I'd say both. The proportion is not known to me, whether we are more, whether,
Yeah.
for example, do I feel more than I think. I would need to make some field test and have some equipment attached to my brain, have some EEG or whatever, and then find, well, during my sleep, was I thinking or feeling more?
Dude, you totally get what I'm after. It's beautiful. This woman a couple months ago, I said that she goes, the word more doesn't function in your question. 'Cause your answer was better. The proportions is not known to me.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay. Two questions from Alan Turing, 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
Uh, I'm sorry. I'm going to use for the first time. It depends, and I
That's
don't.
all right. You can use.
I suppose you don't like this phrase,
No,
but
I
it
I I
depends.
never I don't. That's fine. It depends is
It
fine.
depends. It depends on how you understand soul, basically.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you say what you mean by soul, that I'm going to answer that question. But
yeah.
until you do, I'm not certain what you mean by soul.
That's fine. Let's move on. The second Turing question is, can machines think?
Uh, can machines think? Again, depends on the machine, but let's say they can, or better said, they will be able to in a foreseeable future.
Yeah.
That's my guess. It's not a wide guess, but it's a guess still.
Yeah. And that's Chris, that's what I'm after. Guess, hunch, intuition. That's like some of these questions, like I'm not a neuroscientist, doesn't matter. Just your guess is fine.
Okay.
And yeah, in saying I don't know, pass, that's all fine. Yeah, you get it. Okay. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Meaning, and I wasn't hesitant here. So,
Yeah. Well, there's no right
but
or
but
wrong
but
answer.
when you say meaning, and then you go into kind of this phrase, meaning of life, then you suddenly at the notion of happiness. So
Yeah.
I think meaning is a broader term, so it's a safer term
Yeah.
thereby.
No, there's no right or wrong answers to any of these questions, but that one you got right.
Thank you.
That, no, it's from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Meaning lasts and happiness doesn't necessarily last. So it's all good.
Okay.
Chris, does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we actually creating it?
Why don't we say that consciousness creates our brains?
Yeah, that you're flipping it. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yep.
What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
In human world or just generally?
You whatever context you want to
Okay,
put it.
human speed of thought, but in space, I think where there are no humans, I'm afraid the speed of light.
Okay.
So I can imagine a vacuum in space when there are photons which are going at the speed of light, and they do not think. So I can imagine a space like that.
Yeah. Audre Lorde, the poet, said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." Yvonne Rainer responded and said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
To dismantle the master's house?
Or any context you want.
But why the heck would I dismantle it?
Good.
I'm not a dismantling type, I prefer constructing to dismantling.
Okay, let's put that. That's good. Put the cute quote aside. What tool do you gravitate towards? I mean, you already said it: literature, graphic arts, and music. So let's
Yeah.
move on. What new toy do you suggest?
What new toy? Okay. I don't know. I like playing with music. So
Good. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
that I'm not going to sleep because I get this troubles to I don't it's not insomnia, but I have trouble sleeping. So I'm always counting the sheep and afraid that I'm not going to sleep long enough.
Yeah. McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. And by artists, I mean literature, music, paint, everything artists. They're the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions so that we can learn to cope with what we don't like about the inventions. So, Chris, I asked you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
But I'm an artist myself, by your definition, so I'm not ignoring it. In fact, last week I wrote to you that I'm quite busy, and that was because I got awarded the one of the most prestigious literary prizes in Poland. So I was basically told that I wrote the most valuable piece of fiction in Poland last year, and there's a huge achievement. And when I look at myself and the runner-ups, the other contestants shortlisted, we are all pessimistic. We all sense something dark, something menacing, And given that we wrote our texts, our literature, poetry, prose, essay, translation, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I think we got this sense, for example, that we are going to have a war on our border. I mean, Poland is a neighbor of Ukraine who's just under the waging war against Russia right now. So there must have been some kind of premonition in our artists' minds that something bad is brewing, and we we release those thoughts in our text. We put them down somehow, being rather pessimistic than optimistic. So I don't think we neglect and we ignore those signs. Me myself as a writer, I'm trying to put it down and give it to read to anyone who likes to read it.
And you mean your readers don't ignore your message?
No, they don't.
Yeah, it's good. Do artists have moral obligation?
Yes, they do. Because by artist, I would include my other occupation, which is translator. And translators are also faced with the task to answer themselves the question: is there a translator's ethics? An ethical code for a translator? Can we translate Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf, or can we translate some hateful speech, or can we translate, a call to rape women, or I don't know, kill people? And there is an ethics. So I think it goes also for writers. Let's not write anything, although there are some people who disagree.
Right, but you're saying if someone wrote a book, How to Kill People, you would say, I'm not going to translate this. The publisher says, here, Chris, translate this. You would say no.
No, it depends if it's a book, a general book, How to Kill People. But if it's a book, like Ted Kaczynski's book on how to make a bomb and plant it somewhere and blow this lady that I know, I'd certainly not going to help him. But if it's a general, book like 1984 by Orwell, that's okay. That's a great piece of literature.
Right.
So the more specific a book on killing is, the more hesitant I would be to translate it. But if it's a general, let's kill all the people, or let's kill all the white people, or let's kill all the animals, that's okay, because it's too vague in its being general.
Yeah. I like that. That was good. We'll get into that. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
The older I get, the more I'm afraid of the new ideas, but only because if there are new ideas coming, you just have to handle more and more ideas, and we have only a limited time, to handle only a limited number of ideas. So as we grow older, there are more and more ideas that we have to handle. So it's just the fear of the amount, of the volume, of the huge bulk, the huge pile, the huge heap of ideas, not ideas themselves. So I'm kind of not afraid, but I'm not so into new ideas, but only because they are new and they are another stones in the great pool of pebbles that I have to handle.
What year?
Or in other words, the old ideas were first, the new ideas are newer, and let's give priority to the first ones.
Yeah, the one guy said people are very open-minded about new things, just as long as they're exactly like the old things.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
What year were you born?
Pardon?
What year were you born?
1971.
Do you believe in life after death?
I believe in text after death.
Text after death. Can you forget to die?
I don't know really. That's
Okay.
my hunch. I don't know.
It's good. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
No, I can't.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
A blessing, of course. I know it stores bad things, but I think it's better to store bad things along with the good ones that have no thing whatsoever.
Yeah. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had it, just briefly, and then outside your immediate family, who had an impact on you, like a role model, and what specifically was that impact?
I wouldn't say role model, but my grandmother on my mother's side, she taught me English, or the rudimentary English, and that shaped my life, because I started being good at English, and I started to think about going into the university and to study English studies. And then I translated Finnegan's Wake, and it's all about English, English, English somehow, one way or the other. And had not my grandmother taught me English, I would have been in some other place. So that's a huge impact. It's like this butterfly wing effect. And so within my family, I think I was most influenced, although unwittingly, by my grandmother. And outside, but you mean a living person, or someone I read?
Either, whatever you want.
There are too many of them. Too many. So I'll just stick to those the fresh times that we live in. And I'd say that I enjoy reading Jacek Dukaj. I mean, he hasn't influenced me, but he's given me a lot of food for thought. So if you want to check up Jacek Dukaj, and we know each other personally, so I'd suggest anyone did. I think he was translated into English.
How do you spell his last name?
Dukaj.
And what did you mainly, like, one thing you got from him? What did you get from him? Just summarize something.
Oh, he's into science fiction, and he invents those systems that let's imagine that Aristotelian logic does not work. What would a word look like? Or let's imagine there are no genders. What would a language look like? Let's imagine that there is that we are living in the year 30 million years away from now, and then there go those machines that you asked about, and so a lot of things that you can think at your leisure. And is his system, or is his vision, is it my vision? Sometimes it is, but if it isn't, then it's more prolific.
How do you spell his first name?
Jacek. It's Jacek. So basically Jack with an E inside.
Yeah. And then back to your grandmother teaching you English. Are you required or told to learn English when you're growing up in the Polish education system? Is that a choice, or most people don't learn it?
No. Back in the time when I was young and handsome, we were told to learn Russian.
Oh,
those were the times, and I love Russian. It's not it's the language of my enemy, or perennial enemy. But I love Russian, and I speak Russian. And but at schools we were told to learn Russian, and it was I think it was some kind of civil disobedience on the side of my grandmother, that she would speak German, French, English, Spanish. She had some Latin on her, and Greek, and non-Russian, in an act of defiance against the aggressor. So
how did she choose to teach you English? Because that's more universal. Or did she teach you?
No. She had those. In those times, we didn't have access to a lot of literature in those languages, but there were some newspapers of some periodicals for kids. Let's learn a foreign language. And my grandmother used to have them in French and in English, and some in Spanish. And she just gave me a choice. What would you like? And I said, well,
why'd you pick English over French and
I
Spanish?
don't know. No,
Yeah,
I no, no. I said let's have all of them. But Spanish. But my grandmother was least fluent in Spanish, so the Spanish was off early on. And then there was a time when I was a French language speaker. I forgot all my French, but yeah, English survived because it's lingua franca and all of that.
Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
Not. I mean, I was born and cultured. I wouldn't say raised. I was born and cultured Catholic, but I went away from that religion for the very simple reason I do not have the privilege of faith. So
what age? About teenager?
Yeah, I'd say 15, something like that.
Do you pray?
Yes, yeah. So ironically enough, sometimes when I try to when there is something bad going, I think, oh God, help me do this or that. Oh, basically I'm not thinking about myself. It's, for example, someone is in danger in my family, or there is an operation going on, and it's like Blaise Pascal, going, it's better to be safe than sorry, so let's give God a prayer, although God does not exist.
Oh, Pascal said, might as well.
Yeah.
If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Why did I die?
That is one of the best. Why did I die?
Why? There's no point in dying.
That's great. I was asking you what you wanted him to say, but you flipped it and says I would say why, because one answer, Mo, 99% of people go, you did a good job. It's like, give me a break. But one guy said God would go, we checked our records, we made a mistake, you're going back. I liked it. You flipped it. Okay. Evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Oh, so if I were a Catholic still, I'd say that the Catholic Church Catechism says that evil is very tangible. It's not an abstract thing. It's tangible and it's personal, and it's called Satan or devil or whatever. But I'm not Catholic, so I'd say evil is in us, and it cannot live outside of us or beyond us.
Yeah. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? I'll set it up with a few modern thoughts. Alan Watts said, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question, Chris, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
I would agree in most cases, because there are also, exceptions to the rule. But in most cases, I think he would be right. And speaking about enemy, when I was finished with Finnegan's Wake, I started to think about Finnegan's Wake, not James Joyce, but Finnegan's Wake, as a kind of enemy that I had to beat. And in the same year that my Polish translation of Finnegan's Wake got published, I also got published this book, which starts with the sentence, translation is the continuation of war by other means. So it's a remake of Clausewitz's saying that politics is so war is a continuation of politics by other means. So writing this book on translation as the continuation of war by with other means or by other means, I rested on the shoulders of this Chinese Sun Tzu 5 books of wisdom about warfare. So I wouldn't be able now to put it down to some one thought one liner. I think I wrote a book on how to fight your enemy. So I pity that I pity it cannot be translated into English, but
Yeah.
it got 2 reviews in an English journal. So, and they were said that you English speakers are in a dire need of having my work on warfare translated into English. But
Beautiful.
so far,
But just to review, the Finnegan's Wake book and then the translation book, are those both nonfiction or fiction?
Finnegan's Wake is fiction, as you know. Okay, so I'll give you an answer from my PhD.
Wait, hold on. Before the other book is nonfiction or fiction?
Well, would you consider the book of Sun Tzu, Chinese, ancient Chinese treatises on warfare, fiction or non-fiction? I suppose they are non-fiction.
Nonfiction. And then the book you won the Big Book Award, which one was that? One of those or another book?
No, this is exactly the book. So I wrote a book on the art of warfare, but I didn't write about tanks and cannons and soldiers running. I wrote how one can fight the source text, and I used and then there is an army called a source text, and then there's another army called translation. So, and there is this commander called James Joyce, and there is this commander of this opposing army called Krzysztof Bartnicki, and they clash one against another. And I used examples from my translation of Finnegan's Wake.
Right. And that's the one you won the award with?
No, that's another one.
Oh my God. How many books have you written about?
The ones I like, 3.
3 books.
Because I wrote about a dozen, but they don't, I'm not too happy that I wrote them because they were.
Okay. So that was good what you said about that. But I want to talk, I want to veer off for a second on the word competition.
Okay.
Because I think you said that there's competition. And I'm curious your thoughts on this idea that competition, is it innate in humans or is it more invented by humans? And I'm going to set it up with a quote. Games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, you don't know who really won or lost, but you can tell who is a hero and who is not. That's Nassim Nicholas Taleb. So are we basically hardwired for competition, or is it something humans invented?
Given that so I'm going to need some time to answer that. If you ask yourself what is the purpose of power, and you have all those Orwellian Burgess and other authors writing dystopies about those people grabbing power and becoming cruel towards their societies and so on, one has to ask oneself, what is the ultimate purpose of wielding power over societies or people? And I think there are 2 factors. One being uh, boredom. The most precious resource on earth is time. So basically, what we call economy is our eternal struggle to have more free time. So whenever there is a fight over resources, it's basically, in my opinion, it's ultimately it's struggle for having more time that my neighbor does. And then when there are people who have a similar amount of free time, I think they want to, you know, to 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 distinguish oneself. Okay, so my car is better than yours, and then there comes the factor of pride or hubris, or so I think that, so in most cases we act because we try to have free time, like now, and enjoy a conversation instead of working in a quarry mine or something. And but if we have as much free time as our neighbor, then we have to distinguish ourselves, and we become full of pride. And I think we are that's our invention, because we could we the, I can imagine a situation that we are not, unnecessarily proud, or trying to, to show that the grass is greener on our lawn, and
Yeah. Does punishment work?
uh, I come from a family of lawyers, so I would need to say yes.
Well, this is
Otherwise, I would make them bankrupt suddenly. So,
but that Talib quote is cute, where it says it gives the non-heroes the illusion of winning, blah blah blah. You can't tell who's a hero, but you don't really know who won or lost, but you can tell who's a hero and a non-hero. And one person said this recently, and I'm curious your reaction. They said villains don't think they're bad, they want control. Heroes want freedom. How do you respond to that differentiation?
oh, I already did, I think, because I said villains. That there are some, bad people who have bad intentions, and heroes are all, snow white hearted. No, they both groups have their tenets. Both groups have their agendas, and both agendas on both sides come down to these questions. Uh, I try to overwhelm my enemy in order to gain free time and arrange the world the way I think it should be arranged.
Yeah. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin. He ran Volta Cinema and basically checked out. He said, "This is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree?" Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Sometimes because we don't have access to real stuff, or real artifacts. For example, I always dreamt about, visiting the States, or at least New York, and San Francisco or LA, but I couldn't go there. So I need to, to watch TV or watch albums and stuff. So I need to have an access to substitutes, instead of, being there and seeing it with my own eyes. But the said Jacek Dukaj, the writer, uh, he thinks that our imagination is going to get a hold of our life. So we are going to be, kind of matrix, kind of, I mean, the Wachowski film, kind of matrix like vessels. Our true life, quotation marks, true life, our genuine life would be being connected to some kind of a battery, and then our experiences would be what our brain generates, and our feelings, go here and there.
Really well put. Just a quick aside. What album or book gave you a satisfactory trip to LA in New York?
What? I didn't hear the first
Like
now.
you said, I can't go to New York or LA, but I
Yeah.
can go there through an album or a book. Was there an album or a book that you felt gave you a view of LA or New York?
Okay, so but it's I grew up. I don't know if for better or for worse, but I'm not that kinky or I don't know American anymore. That I need to see New York, especially that my wife and some other people that I knew said, New York is just a dirty city and it's nothing to write home about." But I do. But from those old times when I was say 20, 22, I have these two things that are still with me. One is I would need to tilt the camera, but on my wall there is a painting of New York by night, and I enjoy looking at it occasionally. And the other, it's almost a knee-jerk reflex. Whenever I hear Frank Sinatra singing "Start Spreading the News," so I'm close to crying because I recall those times when I so desperately wanted to see New York, and I never will.
Yeah, and then your wife said that because she did go there, or she
Yeah,
said,
yeah. So that was the irony of fate. Those people that didn't like New York, they were there, and and I
"Is
dreamt about.
she Polish?"
Yes, yes.
And she said, "No big deal."
She said no big deal, and our university teacher, because we met, we were a student couple. We met there as students, and we married. And our university teacher, he also went to New York and said,
No big
but
deal.
Florida and California, my wife said, oh, those are beautiful.
Oh, that's good. And your wife is a writer?
No, no, no.
What's her
She's far from it. She's far from it. She doesn't read anything I wrote, and she's a teacher.
of
An
what?
English teacher.
And then how many years you been together?
Oh, 26. Oh,
How do
it's
you
shameful. It's shameful that I don't off the
That's all
bat, but
right. How
20
how do you how do you explain the longevity of your
of our marriage.
togetherness?
We do not give up one on another too quickly. Whenever something breaks, we try to mend it.
Good.
So we have ups and downs like every marriage does, but we do not end fashionably in divorce. We try to make things work, and I think it's a better solution.
Back to that question, James Joyce projectionist. What do you think the motive of the cave artist was? Your hunch.
uh, that's what I said already. So that's a great example. He wanted to distinguish himself or herself. Look, there's something that I did and you did not.
You mentioned the word true. Truth. You Louis Buñuel said, "I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it."
Mhm.
Cute saying. 99% of people go, "That's great." One guy goes, "That's bullshit. Why am I going to seek something if I'm not going to find it?" So the question is, the journey is said to be more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey's more important?
Because that's how we're hardwired. In our hardwired, there is this emotion that stops us, that on the realization that nothing makes much sense around us and with us and within ourselves, we do not commit suicide instantly because there is some biological factor telling us not to do that. But so I would I would blame biology for this.
Yeah. Chris, tell me the tipping point when you said, I want to be a writer. You're growing up reading probably in different languages, Polish, English. We're going to get into Joyce in a second, but when did you go and you studied Joyce for your PhD? But where in grade school, high school, were you reading something and you went, I want to do this? What was the tipping point when you said, I want to be a writer?
Okay, so I call myself a writer now. So I did some writing in the past, but I was reluctant to call myself a writer. I've never called myself a writer. I call myself writer only now, and not because I got rewarded or awarded last week, but because I wrote something that I really like. It's not that feeling doesn't come too often, that you enjoy what you have written.
Yeah.
And I also turned 50 some time ago, and I said, well, that's a half a century. Perhaps I have something interesting to say after half a century. And ironically enough, when I was writing this piece of fiction, I basically smuggled in the stories that my grandmother told me. So there is more. Not that I have something new to say. I just reworked her stories.
Right. That's good. But a screenwriting teacher told me great art, great writing is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process when you're writing?
Okay, so but we're talking about this last book of mine. So the one that got awarded last week and that made me feel proud enough and confident enough to call myself a writer. So with this latest book of mine, it all did the way I intended, the way I wanted it to go. There is nothing I would change there 2 years after. So I intended it to write the way I did, and there is nothing I would change there. So differently from other texts that I wrote that I think, oh, they're obsolete, or though there is so much bullshit in them. This is one piece of prose that I'm very happy about. So, and it all went, the way not the way I foresaw, but the way I wanted, the way I liked, the way I planned, the way my intuition told me to go when in doubt. And so, but we're talking about this latest book of mine, because if we should talk about things that I wrote when I was 20 or 30, or even this translation of Finnegan's Wake, I think my opinion would be different. Opinion about myself.
Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much do you think of your reader when you're writing your book?
Not at all. Because if I were to think about readers of a mammoth of a book that Finnegan's Wake is, as you know, that's the most unreadable book in the universe or something. So, and I spent, depending on how you count, but let's say 10 years on Finnegan's Wake. So 10 years of labor towards having virtually no reader at all. That makes an impression that I don't care about my readers a lot. It's not that they are negligible, or okay, that I can write for vacuum, but they are not indispensable.
But did you get paid in advance for the Finnegan's Wake translation?
No, I did not.
You self-published, or you peddled it later?
No, I found a publisher. A publisher found me, because
really?
It's a great, yeah. So it turned, felicitously that I'm doing something a year after year after year, and then 10 years passed, and the publisher found me, and it gained some uproar in the media and some buzz, in the social circles, and I was a celebrity for the Warhol unit of being a celebrity. And but when I started, I didn't think about readers, that I'm going to have readers, let alone many readers. The reason why I delved, or I jumped, or I dived into Finnegan's Wake, or translating Finnegan's Wake, was because I like experiments with language. I like to see the borders of language. I like to see when, what one can do with language, how far one can go. And Finnegan's Wake is great at that. And that's also the reason why I'm not so keen about, I'm not an avid reader of Ulysses or other prose, other fiction by Joyce, because I think his greatest achievement, or perhaps the only achievement, is Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
So I'm not the team Ulysses. I'm the team FW.
Right. So before we go back continue on Joyce, I want one divert, because McLuhan broke the Finnegan's Wake code, and he said, and he learned from Finnegan's Wake, that everything humans invent extends some humanness. Like you just took a drink of water, you could have had it in your hand, but the cup, the mug, extends your hands. So everything we invent extends some humanness. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Even non-tangible religion or philosophy might extend consciousness. Shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. What does the writing utensil extend for you? What humanness, whether it's a pen or a keyboard?
I think that's an extension of my emotions and my experiences, or those experiences that I think I should share with other people. So I have no other ways of sharing my experience or my emotions with other people's, but by means of literature or music, perhaps sometimes. So
Yeah,
that's the extension of my thirst to show people my experience, my emotions.
it's good. So you didn't really, how did you find Finnegan's Wake? Was it through college or on your own, or you really did? You're like me. I didn't study Joyce at all. I dove right into Finnegan's Wake. But you didn't know anything about Finnegan's Joyce before, or little, or what?
Okay, so two phases. Uh, Before I started translating, I was in this process of, I had been in this process of buying books about Finnegan's Wake. So I bought like 10 of them, and was reading them, and was getting more and more convinced that there is something that I should translate, because there's so much wisdom in it.
But
And
why did you buy 10 books about Finnegan's Wake? What
oh
started
yeah,
you?
okay. So the first phase is, we are in this Department of English Studies in Poland, and we, in our curriculum, there is that we need to read something by Joyce, and or Dubliners or Ulysses, or Dubliners preferably, because it's a short one.
Yeah.
and and I go to the library, and I was a late comer, and so I go to the library and say to the library lady that I need to read something by Joyce, otherwise I will get flunked. And she said, "Oh, I don't have anything." "Oh wait, I've got this thing here by Joyce." And she pulls, from somewhere, she pulls a copy of Finnegan's Wake, and I was, aghast. I was devastated, because it was like the third or fourth year of my being a student of English studies, and I couldn't make a head or tail of it. But this emotion that I came across then, that there is some book by this strange fellow named Joyce, and it looks like English, but it's not English enough for me to understand it. That was by accident. That was purely by accident. If I had, if I had come to the library earlier, I would have pulled out from the shelf Ulysses or the Portraits of an Artist. I would write an essay. I would get an A or an F, and I would perhaps I wouldn't have even thought that I wouldn't have even known that a text like Finnegan's Wake exists. So luck, pure luck, or ill luck.
Amazing. So those first 10 books about the wake, what's your three favorite? What's your three standouts?
I wouldn't say favorite, but I would say most useful. That's certainly McHugh's annotations, and I think that I bought Skeleton Key to Finnegan's Wake, and I think I bought Tyndall. I didn't buy John Bishop's Book of the Dark. Oh, but a digression. It's not that I could buy anything I want. I was living in Poland. I didn't have much money, so I was, confined or constrained by those factors of me not having enough money to buy anything I want, and Poland not being able to import anything I like. So again, perhaps some kind of accident or some kind of luck, or fate decided for me that I could buy, that I was able to buy those books, not some other titles.
But did you eventually get John Bishop, Book of the Dark?
Yeah. Yep, I did.
And you like that one?
Yeah, I did. I have, like 15 shelves of books. I have a special storage capacity for books on Finnegan's Wake, mostly, and books on some other Joycean stuff. And there's like 15 shelves. I've got books about Joyce and Finnegan's Wake and all other books, and they are half and half.
Is Finnegan's Wake true?
Finnegan's Wake does not exist.
I would say it's a living organism that does exist when people are reading it aloud as a group.
No, but you're assuming that it's a book.
Yeah, I don't assume it's a book. I would say Finnegan's Wake is Joyce invented whatever's after the internet and disguised it as a book.
No, what I meant is that there are so many references when people say Finnegan's Wake. They can mean a book published in 1939. They can think about some kind of later, re-edition, amended text or something after Joyce died with some, improvements by other people. They can think about music based on Joyce. They can think about a movie. They can think about a theater play. So there are so many references that there is no authority that could say, well, this book published in 1939, this is the Finnegan's Wake. There's no Finnegan's Wake, and I mean by this that there are Finnegan's Wakes, and from among those Finnegan's Wakes, there is not one that is privileged that we know, would say the Finnegan's Wake, and in that sense, it does not exist.
I agree. I said two things. Zadie Smith's review of Christian Marclay's movie The Clock in some highbrow literature magazine like New York Review. That is Finnegan's Wake. It's what you're talking about. It is like, and then Todd Hayes' movie I'm Not There about Bob Dylan. The director's,
I've got this one. Yeah.
The director's commentary track. If you listen to the director's commentary, I said that's Finnegan's Wake. So I agree with you. How much percentage, just guess or play along, do you get the wake, and how much percentage did Joyce get the wake? Get, sort of understand.
Okay, so Joyce, I think 100%. And I speak from my own experience. I make an analogy here because I speak from my experience as a writer. So I try to think of being Joyce a writer. And myself, I'd say Finnegan's Wake does not exist, so we cannot talk about percentages here. But if we mean the book published with the words Finnegan's Wake on the cover and the name James Joyce on the cover, published in 1939, that also 100%. So I know it all.
Yeah, you get it 100%. That's good.
Of
I
course,
like that.
of course.
Yeah, of course. So, what do you think his motive was? What was Joyce's motive?
Oh, there's a lengthy chapter on that in my PhD, and I couldn't,
Just
put it
oh,
succinctly.
just give me a couple lines of
No,
condensed version.
I consider in the said chapter, I consider several possibilities. One being some taboo reason for him making the language inscrutable, or non-taboo reason. Uh, there are voices that there is some kind of disease. I mean, something mental about some mental condition speaking through Joyce in Finnegan's Wake. When I was on tour in Trieste, there was this guide who said that James Joyce was taking anti-syphilitic drugs or something, and they gave him some kind of, oral oral hallucinations, and that would mean that could mean that drugs or disease made him
Played a
hear
role. Yeah.
hear things and write what he wrote in Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
I'm not Joyce, and I've never been, so I cannot speak for Joyce, but there are many possibilities, and they are not mutually exclusive. So I don't think there's one most contributing factor.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was good. I appreciate it. So, staying on Joyce a little more, McLuhan probed Finnegan's Wake by James Joyce, saying artists dream while they're awake. Everyone has this ability to create scenarios in the middle of the night that are amazing. But artists can also, and not to be elitist, but artists can also do that while they're awake. They dream awake. Have dreams played a role in your creative process?
I do not remember my dreams. So if they do, it's something that I'm not aware of. I suppose they do, but on some subconscious or unconscious level.
Yeah.
Because whenever I try to recall what I have just dreamt, I fail. I cannot recall a tiny fragment of what and I know that I dream because there's this rapid eye movement and all that. So it's not that I do not dream, it's just that I do not remember my dreams.
Two of my film heroes say, ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression, and Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. It's a stupid question, but just your hunch. Is art making more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever technology, cultures, or environments are dominant?
But what was the first word? I didn't catch it. Is what?
Is art making more
Art.
making or writing? Is it more self-expression? I mean, in general, your observations of other artists and yourself, is art making, writing, music making more self-expression, or more you're a vehicle for whatever culture, technologies, or environments are dominant?
Oh, I'm a product of my culture. So so I would say the latter. So
Can
so
Go ahead.
I cannot extract myself, isolate myself from my culture, my ancestors, whatever my grandmother taught me, whatever experience I had, whatever I learned at school about, the history of Poland or whatever. So I cannot, put some pure blank page called Krzysztof Bartnicki and said, well, that's me. no. There is this burden or this gift of the past centuries that somehow trickled into, into me. And so yeah, they operate within me, although albeit not always consciously, or more often unconsciously than consciously.
Yeah. Can art making be egoless?
Egoless. Oh, and it's not egoless in my case, but I work on myself. I try not to be too. I try not to show too much hubris. And the good thing is, I do not have many things to show hubris about, or to show excessive pride. And uh, when I got this award last week, there were five contestants. I mean, me and four contestants. And in my speech after being awarded, I said that I can easily, and I meant it, I can easily imagine, parallel worlds at a distance of an arm, when those other people stand and got their awards. So it's just, so I try to be humble, and whenever there is some kind of hubris, I try to fight it. I don't know if it's proper to fight hubris. Perhaps it's not very modern and it's not very fashionable. I'm not because if I do not show hubris enough, I think I cannot become a celebrity, and I cannot have million views on YouTube or something like that.
In your accomplishment, getting your reward, how do you rate these three elements? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, second and third?
Okay, so ambition is the least important. Skill is what skill is okay, metaphorically speaking, skill is what wrote my book, and luck is what published my book. So that's the answer. Because it was a really pure luck that my awarded book got published. It was just, I sent it to a person who was excited about it, showed it to some other people, and then there was some kind of buzz in the circle, and then it went on. But if I hadn't shown it to this one person, nobody would have known it. Nobody would knew about it. Nobody would know about it now. So
Yeah. Leo Bersani studied Mallarmé, the symbolist poet. And he said a line I'd love you to think about and react in your regard and Joyce. The very crises which threatens the writing of poetry sustains poetic composition.
oh, but you I'm not trying to deflect that question or run away from it, but you're using the word poetry, and interestingly enough, I have my uh, doubts about poetry. I mean, when I speak about myself, presenting myself as a writer, that's a writer of prose. I've never succeeded in being a poet, and I never will. And I have my own definitions of how one can discern poetry from prose, and what is the poetic way versus the prosaic way. And to put it bluntly and shortly, I cannot speak about poetry because that's a world that is pretty much unknown to me again.
Yeah. But let's just substitute the word, Chris. The very crises which threatens the writing of prose sustains prosaic composition. How would you react to that?
I think I would agree with that.
And same for Joyce. You think that was the same thing?
Uh Again, I try to put this division line between James Joyce, a human being, who was not a very nice person, by the way, and whom I do not want to think a lot. And there is the text, Finnegan's Wake. By the way, this is the way that I show that I said that we live to produce text, and the texts are going to outlive us. So there we go. James Joyce is at the in Zurich cemetery, and his text lives on. So I always try to talk about the text, then about a human being who's dead now, and there's no point of talking about James Joyce, whatever his intentions or his brain processes were. That's not relevant anymore.
I agree. That's really well put. Did humans invent texts more out of play or more out of necessity?
Oh, there's an interesting question, but I think that you're assuming that the humans got the upper hand. So in one of my texts, I think I was 30 something. I wrote a text. It was an essay-like text in which I say that texts. Let's imagine texts are parasites, or because they are not symbiotic. Let's imagine texts are parasites living inside our bodies. So our bodies are going to die and wither and rot, and texts need to reproduce. So if you think about texts, that they are the master and we are the servants, the shells that just store those texts, and we are the vehicles or the vessels in which texts reproduce or are being reproduced. And now when I talk, it's text it's text talking, it's not my human shell talking.
Yeah.
So if we make this,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
So if we make this distinction, if we do make this distinction, humans shells and text, then texts are the masters and humans are servants.
Yeah. But did text invent itself or come about more from play or more from necessity?
Being a human and cannot say what the master's race invented. But I have to answer myself, why am I talking this right now? I mean, this is the text talking about text. So my guess, or my text guess actually, is that there are some conflicted factions of text. That text is not some uniform species that is all friendly, but there are factions and they are struggling. And some text that possessed me is going to say those things now about other texts that are the enemies of the other texts.
Dude, have you ever read Bob Dobbs Explains the 10 Thunders of Finnegan's
I've got them. I've got 3 books on my shelf. I think
Yeah,
3 of them.
Yeah, but that's Bob Dobbs, Church of the Subgenius.
Yeah.
You have Bob Dobbs, the genuine fake Bob Dobbs, who explains Finnegan's Wake and McLuhan. You know about him? Anyways, he talks about the Android meme, and you just touched on that. Have you ever heard Android meme?
No, perhaps I did, but I don't know the
Yeah,
name.
well, this is basically humans have disappeared, and it's just text talking to text. So it's basically we invent things, then these things have hidden psychic effects. Then the hidden psychic effects are imitated by the humans. We start imitating the hidden psychic effects, and then the humans disappear, and it's just the Android memes talking to each other. So you really touch on this. You should check it out. Go find The 10 Thunders of Finnegan's Wake by Bob Dobbs and Jerry Fialka.
Okay.
Read that.
I will.
You should.
Okay.
And Hollis Frampton, great experimental filmmaker, said, narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. So you could take narrative, storytelling, text, is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Any comment?
I got lost in that question because it was using a lot of smart words, and I don't know what my options are. I mean, the text, the narrative, and what was the third one?
Storytelling. Just bunch them all into one thing. Just say, okay, drop narrative and storytelling. Text is born. Text is born out of the animal animal necessities of the spirit, because we are waiting to die.
Okay, so okay, I get it, because I thought that you said the text is bored, like boredom,
No,
and not
born.
so
Yeah,
why would it be bored,
bored. Yeah,
But
not BORED,
yeah.
BORN. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I I think I should say again that it depends on the definition. When I said a couple of minutes ago about we don't have a definition of soul, and
Yeah.
we have the very same problem with this question.
Gotcha. That's fine. Let's go on. Now I only got 10 more minutes. Can you go longer, or you have to go
Yeah,
until?
sure,
Okay.
whatever.
Good. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
What's more important? Conviction.
T.S.
And
Eliot.
I'm convinced, so
Yeah, you're convinced of that.
so it's self-referent.
T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
What language is my inner dialogue in? But
Inner
you do
dialogue.
not. Yeah, but you do not mean that my inner dialogue in this is in this in those two hemispheres called the brain.
It's you can define where your inner dialogue is, but it's more metaphorically. It's not like Polish or English. It's what
Mhm.
form is your inner consciousness in?
I do not know that, because uh, when I think about it, it's already translated from something subconscious. So that what you've just said, I think that is pre-conscious or subconscious. And whenever I try to talk about it, it's already translated from the chemical, chemical agents in my brain. So it's like this platonic cave. I cannot say about those pre-conscious beings or entities, or however we call them.
Okay, here's a question McLuhan asked. He didn't answer. He asked this question. How about technologies as the collective unconscious and art as the collective unconsciousness? So he's differentiating between technology and art in the
Mhm.
difference between conscious and consciousness.
Oh, I have watched too many science fiction disaster films to know that there is a possible world without technology. I don't know if there is a possible world without technology in the McLuhan sense of the word, but that would be my comment for now. And when I'm going to review this film, I think I'm going to process this more.
And
Right
then
now,
then we can have another salon in the
yeah,
future.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is perception reality?
No, oh no, I take it back. It doesn't have to be.
Ah. Why no. Lewis Carroll said, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Uh yes. Yes, I did. Yes, I have.
Name one.
The fate of the universe.
Beautiful. Tell me one major element of your creativeness, writing, sound working, that stayed the same, and one major element that's changed since you started.
Okay, so the element that stayed is my perseverance. So I can be a long distance runner. And I can put myself to translating one book for 10 years or so. So that's not changed. I'm a stubborn man in a good sense of the word. And what changed? I think I care less, because I used to care. I wanted to have achievements. I wanted to be more famous. I wanted more money. And the older I get, I don't care
Yeah.
about that. So
Smart.
that's what changed.
Where'd you get your perseverance, stubbornness from? The way your parents raised you or on your own?
I think I was raised that way.
Yeah. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're normally taught to overcome a weakness.
Mhm.
Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
I think shyness is my weakness, and that weakness, in a manner of speaking, turned me into a writer. Because if you're shy enough to talk to a neighbor, or to a pretty girl, or to a companion, or whoever, then that shyness may turn you into a writer, and then you put down your whatever you're too shy to talk openly and directly. So I would put it like this.
Beautiful. Then you called yourself a sound worker.
Yep.
What first attracted you to pursue that? Did you hear some concrete music from France or experimental musicians or something cocktail, whoever? Would you hear that said, I want to pursue that?
Okay, so I call myself a sound worker for the lack of a better word, because some people tend, I think that's on my Wikipedia page, that I'm musician or composer, and I'm shy again. I think that when we talk about composers, we mean the great, uh, Rachmaninoff, or some or Tchaikovsky, and I'm not that league. So I'm humble enough. I know my place, and I cannot call myself a composer. I'm not a Bach. I'm not Bach. I'm not Beethoven. And the same with musicians. What kind of a musician can I be if I don't read notes and I don't play an instrument? So that's why I invented this word, but I still do produce some sounds. I coined up this word, sound worker, in order to be somehow distinct from the great composer, the great musicians, and yet to point to the fact that I do produce sounds.
But you mentioned four music composers, but who made you pursue using a computer to make music? I mean, or technology to make music as opposed to acoustic instruments. Who did you hear growing up?
Also, on the receiving side, I would say I have listened, because it's not something in the past. I have listened to all kind of music, with the exception of Japanese noise, perhaps. So I'm not shy
But
of any kind of
who's your three top music that
musicians.
had an impact on you? Yeah, besides those four you mentioned.
Okay, so uh, that I would to answer that question, I need to go on the sentimental lane of my, that we have good memories about something that happened in our
Good,
life.
good. Yeah, because you
So,
mentioned
uh,
Sinatra. You mentioned
so
Sinatra, but
so
somebody
the
else.
so the band that I would take on the, uninhabited island, I think it's Jethro Tull,
Okay,
because I'm a sucker for them.
okay.
And two more. Broadly speaking, and that's not a one performer, but I'm also a metalhead. So
Yeah, metalhead.
and I
Okay.
mean and I mean from rockabilly to really heavy, really 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 heavy stuff.
Yeah. No, I
And
get you.
I enjoy a lot classical music. So all
Yeah.
Chopin's and things like that.
No,
I
that
think
that
I, I think Chopin because of him being Polish.
I like that. Good. Okay, so my friend says the 3 T's of music: technique, theory, and taste. Technique, you can learn how to hit the buttons or play the instrument. Theory, you know what chords you're playing. How does one acquire taste?
I don't know. I have taste,
How did
so
you
I don't know.
how'd
I
you
don't
acquire?
know. Suddenly, I found it within myself. I don't know. I do not have the technique and I do not have the technology, but I do have taste.
Yeah.
Yes, but I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
Perhaps my grandmother, she was, she was at the musical school. My mother was a pianist. Perhaps there's something in the genes. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it is there.
What's more fundamental, music or language?
Oh, language is a broader word. So music is one of the languages that we can, not speak, that we can have. So music is the universal language. So I had to learn English in order to be able to talk to you right now. But if we were composers and I whistled something, you could whistle something back, and perhaps we could communicate that way. So the the music language the music language is more universal than the natural languages such as English or Polish or whatever.
You know who I first heard say that? Korla Pandit. Have you ever heard him?
Yeah.
You know
No.
Korla Pandit? Oh, you got to look him up.
Okay.
Korla,
Wait, wait, wait.
Kor
Yeah.
Korla, second
Yeah.
name Pandit.
Okay.
He
I will.
played he played organ for 6 decades, and
Okay.
you watch him on YouTube. Okay, here's
Thank you.
McLuhan. Here's McLuhan again. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language differences. Any comment?
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's my fourth category of music that I'm very keen on, and that's folk music. And I tend to listen to folk music a lot lately. And I must say that I hear folk music from different places in the world. I see some substantial differences between them, and they have to
Yeah.
be attributed to something, perhaps to the thing that you mentioned.
Can you tell me an song that makes you laugh?
Oh, uh, if by made me laugh you mean a meme or a funny cartoon that we can saw on the Facebook, scrolling it down, there are things that make me laugh because there's something funny, a picture that has a joke in it. But if you mean made me laugh in a sense that it made me happy, I think that being awarded that award last week, it's still it still didn't sink down with me that I'm sort of the best writer in Poland last year. So it didn't make me laugh that I'm laughing hysterically, but it makes me happy, and I think those words are cognate.
It's good. How do you find peace of mind?
Oh, unfortunately, I do not find peace of mind easily uh, and often. So I would be a bad advisor on that topic.
Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
Always,
No,
you know,
when, but
all
when, yeah, always, but it's more like anger can be a productive emotion always when it's doing what, or what are you doing with it?
when it gives you strength, for example, when it
Yeah,
gives you focus. So I don't know
yeah.
if you're a fan of Star Wars. Are you?
I know. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah.
There's those two factions, one the Jedi, the other the Sith, and the Sith are the angry guys, and anger and makes them focused, make them strong, make them committed, and I would say that there is something in it.
Yeah. There's a line, Chris, that goes like this: you create what you resist. And I'm not meaning you, Chris, but I'm saying in general, your observations of creators. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel nailed it. He said, thank God I'm an atheist. So, so what's your reaction or what's your thoughts on this line? You create what you resist.
That's topic number 2 that I'm going to reflect more profoundly after we have done this video, and I'm going
And
to
then
watch.
we'll have 2 salons, and yeah, I like this. You really get this. It's fun. Okay, I understand that. Here's 5 quick Alan Watts questions, just
Okay.
off the top of your head in a couple words, 2 or 3 words, say. 1, who started it all?
Time.
Are we going to make it?
No.
Where do we put it?
Time.
Who's cleaning it up?
Space time.
Is it serious?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, those were great. You did super there. What's the function of laughter?
To release tension, to show that we are in a good disposition of mind, to make people approach us not as a hostile. It's got several functions, and I wouldn't discern or distinguish one. I wouldn't single out one of them.
Utah Phillips,
especially that when we think of laughter, it's not always that something that we plan to do. It's always automatic. Or so.
Yeah, there's a great line. I'm trying to get more control over my spontaneity.
and now I'm laughing spontaneously.
Yeah. Utah Phillips said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Entitled? So if you ask me who is making rules, that's another
Not
couple
who is, not who is, who should, or who is entitled to make.
No, that's a tough one. I need to say I don't like this answer. I must admit, but I need to say society.
Yeah, that's good. On what occasion do you lie?
When a lie brings more profit than when it's more, when it's when if I do not lie, when it hurts people, I think I can resort to a lie.
Yeah. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Learn Chinese instead of English.
Nice. You are smart. Which way should toilet paper come off the roll? Over or under?
Over, I think.
Why?
Because that's the way I see it most often.
Good.
And I like it. It operates. If it's not broken, why mend it?
Oh, that's my favorite. McLuhan said, if it works, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
No, he says if it works, it's obsolete. I invented an aphorism when I was a kid. If it works, break it the American way.
Okay. I get it. Okay. So you're a toilet breaker. Whenever you see a paper, coming down, you turn it back or something.
No, I say over. No, the patent is over 100 years old. It has it going over. 90% say over.
Mhm.
10% say under, and they have reasons. So,
Okay.
Okay. If a publisher was to come to you and say, we want to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner.
It's nice. That's a good movie, and that's a good novel already. Okay. They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
They want to what? Sell?
Scent the
Scent. Okay.
scent the glue. So when you open up the book, there's a smell that comes out. They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Oh, I think the Scottish heather.
Nice. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Can I say New York?
Yeah.
And it can be made of anything as long as it's in New York. But I would have to say San Francisco or LA comes close. So
Good.
somewhere there.
Tell me something good you never had, but you never want.
That I never had.
And you never want it. It's good. You never had it, but you never want it.
Approximately speaking, money.
Yeah. The three answers I get the most: money, fame, and heroin.
Okay. Okay.
If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I will consider myself unlucky.
Just a couple more and we're out of here. This has really been fun. You really understood. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
I think there is going to be I don't know when, but I think there is going to be a shift in the dominance of the English language. I don't know for how long you are going to enjoy the language privilege that people around you learn English and you don't have to learn Polish. I think that Chinese are going to catch up, and we perhaps we live to the day, we live up to the day to see what's going on then.
Wait, just to clarify, you're saying English dominates the world now, and you
Yes.
think we're going to shift to having Chinese dominate.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you know that someone translated Finnegan's Wake in Chinese and it was a bestseller in China? Did you know?
No, you're wrong. First of all, it's not Finnegan's Wake. It's only the first part. Second of all, what's the number of copies? The number of copies is 6,000. So if you imagine China, I wouldn't call it, but yeah, perhaps it is a bestseller for Finnegan's Wake, but 6,000 copies for China, it's nothing.
Why did it hit the press in America that it was like a bestseller?
Because that's a marketing maneuver.
Wow. How many copies of
But you don't have to take my word on it, because I may be wrong, but I was curious about that stuff, and I saw the number 6,000. And even if there was a reprint or an additional stack of copies, it's still not many. It still means not many copies for a country as large as China.
How many of your books sold about?
Or more than in China.
Say about how many?
I cannot divulge, because I'm under the contract with my publishers, and I cannot say that.
Okay. But it sold more than 6,000
Yep.
in Poland or worldwide.
In Poland, my books are not translatable, so
Yeah. But isn't Finnegan's Wake having over 60 languages? How could it ever be translated?
well, you can have the inscrutability as the input and inscrutability at the output. So people complained that they didn't understand Finnegan's Wake, and then there came my translation, and now they have two things that are that they cannot understand. So
But
I did
what
my job, because there
you
was
did it,
something.
yeah. I understand, but what's another word for inscrutability? What does that mean?
Well, it's my opinion would be it's not in English, and that's another chapter in my PhD. I argue there that it's not in English. It's a foreign language. It's a one man's language, being Joyce's language, and it resembles English. It does, but we cannot understand it, just like we cannot understand any foreign language that we didn't learn. I cannot speak Chinese, and it's not Finnegan's Wake. So but it acts like the language of Finnegan's Wake.
No.
Wakeese, let's call it Wakeese. Like
Yeah, we call
yeah,
it Finneganese.
yeah, yeah.
Finneganese or Wakeese. That's good. Yeah, I understand. Because I've I've hosted Finnegan's Wake Reading Club for over 2 decades, and people would bring up, here's the Italian version. I'm like, you can't make an Italian version of the Wake. But I'm glad they tried. Have you ever seen passages from Finnegan's Wake, Mary Ellen Butte's movie?
Yeah, yeah.
What'd you think of the movie?
Oh, it was in the 60s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I watched it a long time ago. So
no opinion.
No opinion.
2 more, we're out of here, Chris. Thank you. Joseph Beuys. You know this artist?
No, I don't.
He said,
but I put it down.
No, that's all right. Beuy's. Yeah, he's a German. I don't know, German or Austrian. He's a performance artist. Really important agitprop.
Okay.
He wrote his own additional chapter to Finnegan's Wake. He says, I can do this, and he wrote a whole new chapter. He's
really
unique. I'm serious. No, he's important.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, his art form was living with a wolf in an art gallery. That's his performance art piece. He's a heavy artist. Check him out. One of his sayings is, "AC productive."
I'm sorry, I lost you for a moment, so I didn't hear you.
Joseph Beuys said, "Make the secrets productive."
Okay.
Okay. Now, Thornton Wilder, he wrote Our Town in America in 1928. He was a total Wakean.
Up to the point, because then he was not.
Yeah, because Skin of Our Teeth, his play, is a total Wake ripoff. Anyways, here's what Thornton Wilder said. Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
What's it? But you mean Finnegan's Wake?
No, you put the it in. Basically, it's what is it, meaning what is your life? What is everything in the world about for you? Or you can put it in Finnegan's Wake, or both. Yeah.
Time, which is synonymous to light or photons.
Yeah. Time and light. That's good. You're
no, time is light.
Time is light. Yeah. Well, Leonard Cohen says you can't have light without a crack. You know about that?
No.
Okay, last question. Chris, really fun. Thank you. Appreciate it. Super.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, what gives you the most optimism?
That our world is going to last for a minute. It's doomed. It's going to extinguish or expire, in 5 minutes, but it's not our minutes. So let's enjoy it.
They asked McLuhan, are you an optimist or a pessimist? Because earlier you said you were a pessimist, right?
Well, that was about the question that artists have these premonitions and the sense of something, bad in the air. So yeah, recently, yes, we have a war waging.
But it seems as though you're an optimist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I try to be.
I
Because
see.
okay, I'll put it like this: pessimism, I do not have to, pessimism comes from me, naturally. On optimism, I have to work on.
I see. Pessimist comes from where?
From within. So it comes, I do not have to invent, I do not have to work on pessimism to produce it or to exhibit it. And on optimism, I need to put some pressure on my, brain or whatever to be more optimist. So optimism comes with work. Pessimism is for free.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. There's a bumper sticker I saw in LA once. The worst things in life are free. But
Okay.
I'll tell you, the structure of the whole interview is I start off with what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being.
Mhm.
And the last question is what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he says, other human beings.
Mhm.
So, it's sort of like, I guess we're destined to be here together, so,
Mhm. Mhm.
sharing this time was good. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerry.
And
Okay.
even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope this never ends.
Okay.
It goes
Okay.
on past the 5 minutes.